Doesn't he just look like he wants to die?
Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube. From the gang called niggas with attitude.
What's up, my Nimrods? It's Gage, and today we're going to be talking about RNG in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or RNG stands for Random Number Generator, or just for shorthand, randomness. We're talking about random shit in Yu-Gi-Oh! But not just talking about randomness in general, but how I believe it should be more of a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Something that we should see a lot more common to make the game interesting, but also have some really powerful effects to be able to tie into the game, make the game a little bit more interesting. Game is already luck-based for most people's kind of thought process, and I guess this might push that agenda, but then again, I also think it does provide some competitive aspect and making random cards, and it also spices up deck building a little bit, makes it that goo. So when we're talking about random effects in Yu-Gi-Oh!, we're talking about something that will rely on a factor being random. For example, a die roll or a coin flip are things that provide a chance of one or a different thing happening. A random effect, if you will. There's cards like Crazy Box and Dice Foon that work around die rolls, and there's also cards like Cup of Ace and any of the Arcana Force monsters that revolve around coin flips. Randomness in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not a new idea, a new concept, but it is something that I believe is severely flawed. And I do believe that's something that should change, because I do believe there's a lot of hidden potential in adding random effects into the game, or at least supporting them in a way that will make cards playable. Really what kind of sparked this discussion is the release or the announcement of the new promo card for the sneak peek of Circuit Break, and that's Hallow Hallow, a level 3 Dark Fiend Pendulum Tuner type normal monster, scale 2 with a pendulum effect of once per turn you can target one face-up monster on the field, roll a 6-sided dice, and that monster level becomes the same as the result until the end of the turn. Otherwise, it's just a vanilla monster with a pretty, I guess it's supposed to be funny effect. I don't know. I'm sure this card does have some intrinsic value with things like Painful Decision, searching it out. Fact being, it can be part of the Burning Abyss deck. I don't think that's particularly relevant, but I don't know. I'm sure the card has some playabilities, but as for its pendulum effects, it's straight garbage. And it really just kind of made me think about where we've come today from random effects and why they just haven't been cutting the mustard. Recently, I think we saw a regional deck list or a deck list in general or something play a card Blind Obliteration in their deck. I believe it was side decked, but this is a pretty much hallmark card that really, I think, shows how RNG should be put into the game. Blind Obliteration is a normal trap card that says roll a 6-sided die twice and destroy all face-up monsters with levels ranks lower than the total roll. Now this card does have a random aspect to it, still being the fact that you're rolling 2 dice to pop potentially all your opponent's monsters on the field, but you won't do it all the time. But actually, my good friend and also fellow YouTuber Alex Simo made a whole list of percentages of chances that you can get to wipe fields or wipe certain level cards off the field, level/ranks. I'm going to show it here because I'm way too lazy to type it out myself, but thank you for that in advance, Alex. Totally didn't ask you if I can use it, but I believe Blind Obliteration is really a good design for a random card to be played in this game. A lot of things that we've seen in this game with random effects have often very big drawbacks to them. For example, the last really playable random card we've seen is Snipe Hunter. And yes, this card was played. It was actually printed in Champion Pack 2 as a super rare because it was played so much. Snipe Hunter is a level 4 monster where you can discard a card, then target one card on the field, and then you destroy it unless you roll a 1 or a 6. So the thing is with this card is it would be a really powerful spot removal thing, and it actually happened quite often. If you were to roll a 6-sided dice, you would have approximately a 66.6% chance to pop a monster if we exclude the numbers 1 and 6 being rolled in your percentages. So that's still an above 50% chance and above a coin flip to be able to pop a monster, and this percentage was deemed good enough to be able to play this card, as removing a monster from the field for essentially well, no, the cost was discarding a card, was actually rather powerful. There wasn't a lot of really easy spot removal back in the game then, so this card hasn't really aged well, but I do think we can take kind of keys from it and make cards that could possibly be good for the game, that still provide that random aspect to it. Something that I really think is holding back these random cards in the game is these detriments that happen when you don't roll or you don't successfully hit the right number for your random number generator. You really suffer major consequences. And I think that's something that we should kind of step away from a little bit in further designing random cards in the game. For people that know me rather well, I do love another card game, and that card game is Hearthstone. And Hearthstone has the ability to implement a lot of RNG into their game for the fact that they have an online card game. You have a database you can pull from all the time. You can summon random cards from the deck whenever you wanted and everything. It's really They have so many options for the game, and it's just a great game from what they've designed. But because of the fact that they are sorely focused online, they can pull from a lot of different RNG factors, whereas we're playing a physical card game, we're very limited for what we can do. However, I believe I can design a card that translates pretty well to Yu-Gi-Oh! And that could be actually playable by using RNG. One of the best cards of the olden days in that game was Piloted Shredder, which is a 4-mana 4/3 that has a death rattle of when it's destroyed, you can summon a 2-mana random minion. Now, the thing about random cards in Hearthstone is I do think they are built a lot better than how they're built in Yu-Gi-Oh! For example, 4-mana 4/3 was not a very bad stat line. It's a very aggressive stat line. However, it could also be countered with 2-mana cards. For example, Knife Juggler, before its nerf, was a 2-mana 3/2 that had an effect. And also, this card could get hit by cards like Dark Bomb, which was a 2-mana deal 3 damage for Warlock, or of course Frostbolt from that of Mages. So this card's really easily contested, but it's still a rather decent body if you cannot deal with it. 4-mana 4/3 is actually really decent stats, and also the fact that this thing essentially floats is really helpful too. 2-mana pool in Hearthstone is also really broad, being the fact that you're going to most standardly get a 2-mana 2/2 out of it. So essentially, you're total getting 6/5 of stats for 4 mana. And of course, the randomness kicks in there for the fact that you could also pull cards like Nat Pagel or cards like Doomsayer, which could potentially be really good or also really hurt your strategy. The randomness is there to really provide balance to the card. And I think in future designs of random cards for Yu-Gi-Oh!, this should be something that translate over, which is having a decent body to start with and a very limited amount of randomness that could still be beneficial to the player playing the card. So how do we design a good random card? Well, let me design Piloted Shredder and translate it to Yu-Gi-Oh! And see exactly what we could do with it. So to make Piloted Shredder a really good card, I decided to make a level 4 monster machine with the effect of you can special summon it from your hand if you control no monsters. I believe this is pretty much a standard effect, as a normal summon is pretty slow to make a very powerful card, but you'll see how this card's going to be really good and actually kind of maybe only a little bit balanced out. I want to make it really good to kind of set an example, but you can special summon it from your hand if you control no monsters. And the rest of this card's effect is when this card is removed from the field, roll a 6-sided dice and special summon a level 3 or lower monster if the result is not a 1 or a 6. So I essentially took the last part of Snipe Hunter's effect, which was to give the card a 66.6% chance to be able to pull a monster from the deck or float when it is sent from the graveyard. Now the balancing factor for this card is we're going to make it a 0 attack, 0 defense monster, so it's used purely for the fact of combos. When we look at this card, I definitely think without question it's stronger than Photon Thrasher, but it's definitely debatable if it's stronger than Gofu or not, but I really wanted to make that an example of the card and show just how powerful this can be. Of course, special summoning a level 4 monster for free is very powerful, yes, but now we're tying in the fact that in substitution for its attack and defense, we're giving it a chance to get you an additional monster when it's removed from the field. Reborn Tengu kind of style there. Most random cards we're seeing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have separate effects for depending on which die roll you get and everything. The percentages are not there, and often the drawbacks are not that good. There is no drawback for not hitting your number with this card. You essentially do not just get a monster. You still, however, get a level 4 monster you special summon for free, provided that you controlled no monsters in the first place. I think punishing the player for going for that extra advantage, for deck building and playing a objectively bad card to try to get the chance to get a better advantage and make it a really, really powerful card, I think this should be rewarded and shouldn't be punished if you're trying to go for this. And I believe this is how random cards should be designed moving forward into the game, just having really powerful cards that could get even fucking better if you have managed to hit that jackpot. I'm pretty sure anything with at least a slightly above 50% chance to favor you might actually see competitive play, just because the effects may be so powerful. For example, a card like Ragnaros, I've been rambling for a while, but a Ragnaros is an 8-mana 8/8 that can't attack, and during the end of the turn, you deal 8 damage to a random enemy. This is a Hearthstone card. This is actually probably one of the most powerful legendaries to date. It's actually been rotated out to the Hall of Fame, but this card in a vacuum seems kind of bad for the fact that, oh, you don't know exactly what you're going to hit. If your opponent has a full board, you have, I think it's like an 11% chance to actually hit something decent, or if you want to actually target something, you want to hit, you have like the 11% chance if their board's full. However, in different scenarios with the card, it gets so much better. For example, example, if your opponent doesn't have any monsters on the field, you get an 100% chance to deal 8 damage to them for 8 mana, and you also get an 8/8 body, which is very, very powerful. Also noting an 8/8 stat line is very common for an 8 mana minion. So if your opponent has an 8/8 on the board, you have a 50-50 chance to hit either their face or the 8/8, which makes you an immediate trade for free, and you still get to keep your 8/8 body. Huge tempo swing, very powerful card. However, it's all random. I love talking about Hearthstone, dude. I could talk about it all day, literally. Let me know what you guys think about random cards and how they should be designed in the future.
That's all, folks.
If you guys liked the video, be sure to like the video, thumbs up the video, especially if you enjoyed the video. Pack winner, that's you. Shoot me a PM. If you don't live in the US, do not shoot me a PM. I cannot ship your pack overseas. I am sorry. Be sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. I'm uploading actually rather frequently now. Quite proud of myself. And yeah, that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Nim signing out.